Hello. Let me do a quick little note about a novella, Sngng the Comic Con Blues by Shawnee McGr, a American urban fantasy author. This is in her Encrypted series. It's at the end of Calculated Risks, number 9 of the Encrypted series, a urban fantasy series of a bunch of cryptozoologists who, family of cryptozoologists who, make it their thing to kind of conserve all the kind of the various creatures and monsters of legend, of myth, of urban legend, Bigfoot, a siren in this book, to figure out what's going on. This is a novella which some novellas are. I mean, novellas can very much be their own thing. They could be, they obviously they can be, like a short story. It's a little work of art, a little gem on its own. However, in the more recent publishing field, you also get things that you have the sense of this is something that's spaffed out by the author because a publisher maybe, or fans want kind of free material that this is what the author can reward for them, and they are more product. And in this case, very much more, Sngng the Comic Con Blues seems to be more of just product. It's like a fragment that she maybe spat out, which I don't get. Shawnee McGr did not make into an actual story. This one is set in the summer before Encrypted number 1. The main point of view character is Antinomy Annie Price. It tells about her taking her cousins, Sarah and Artie, a cuckoo and an incubus. Cuckoo being a mind reader, mind alterer, and incubus. Artie being someone who exudes pheromones that would make you fall in love with him. So as a result, he's very insecure about all that and is very much of a shut-in nerd who lives in his basement. Antinomy, much to her dismay, is forced to take her sister, Verity, who is the oldest sister, where Antinomy is the youngest sister of the Price sisters, along. And we see two relationships here that we've already kind of had resolved in other books. Sarah and Artie, there's been this whole thing of like, oh, the whole family knows that they're in love. Why can't they figure it out or keep on trying to push them together, but they resist. This got resolved in Imaginary Numbers number 8, so we already know that is already resolved. And then we have a thing of Antinomy being very resentful against her older sister Verity, who is a dancer, who she actually convinced her parents that she could compete in a dance marathon, even though all the other siblings have been kind of forced to give up their passions because if they took them into public, the Covenant of St. George, which is this religious zealot group that kills all monsters and rather than conserves them, would come down on them and hunt them down because they would have discovered. But for some reason, Verity got a pass, and Antinomy is very, very resentful and angry younger sister about this, and this gets I found it tedious to begin with. It was sort of like, oh, this is Annie's only defining characteristic. It felt like for a good while there was just that she fucking hated Verity, which was like, it just made her it made her a jerk. It made her kind of bratty jerk. That did get resolved, but because this is a flashback novella, we get it again, and we get it in, like, it's a novella, but I'd say we have the first good quarter of this novella is Shawnee McGr doing what she does in these books, which is summarize all the stuff that's happened before to bring everyone up to speed, because she seems to be... It's ironic that she summarizes everything so that you could just go into this book cold, and she tells you all the information you need. However, because she tells you all the information you ever need, you would never want to start anywhere but number 1 in these books, because if you start at number 9 will ruin you for numbers books 1 to 8. It tells you everything that happens in them. But it's also just, it's just like this is all, for someone who's read all of that stuff before, this is just like, I know, and also I'm bored with it already. There's also a thing of like, the only other thing is that Verity is jealous of how big Annie's boobs are, or was as children, and when Annie got her boobs, they were much bigger than Verity's, and Verity resented her for this, and this gets brought up. I think multiple times in different books. It's gotten brought up as just like kind of an odd. This is another conflict point for the two sisters, which, you know, might be legitimate, but it just seems kind of odd for that. But so these two relationships get this sister relationship and this kind of romantic relationship between two cousins, but they're not cousins. They're cousins by how they've been raised, but they're not biological cousins, which you can still argue would be kind of odd. But this is a very insular family, so I guess, you know, they're also both immune to each other's powers, which also makes it actually, that in some ways that decreepifies it, because you don't have any idea. There's no chance of that either one of them coercing the other. Not that they ever would, because they're both very good, honorable characters that way. But it's exploring two relationships that we've already seen the endpoints to, that are resolved, and that we don't need it. But it spends like 90% of the novella is just kind of rehashing that stuff. And then literally like the last couple of pages, it's like they meet the siren, they talk to them, they say, okay, don't do that anymore. Come with us to dinner and we'll come up with a better solution so you don't have to keep on murdering guys. And it's like, oh, okay. That's the end of it. It's like, I'm not spoiling anything. That is the end of it. They're singing the Comic-Con blues. There's a siren set up. Like, you could have had an adventure here. You could have dispensed with all this old relationship stuff, that if you're somebody who, the only person who's going to read a novella of this encrypted novella is people who've read all the other books, and it just rehashes all the old other books' relationships. You could have at least given us a adventure in here, which is what Sean McGr does well. But no, we just get a rehash of old stuff. This is something that I feel like should have just been left on the website, or should have been something that was, you know, it was a fragment that she wrote and that got left in her papers, that, you know, got left there, because what is the point of this? What is the point of this other than filler, other than a free thing to give to fans while you're waiting, or a free thing to give to the publishers so that they can kind of toss out as chum to the fans to kind of keep remind them that Sean McGr is still around between actual novels. So yeah, this felt very cynical and disposable to me. So not a fan at all. Not a fan at all. That said, I like the encrypted series, and when we actually get back to the actual encrypted series, when I get back to the actual encrypted series, this is like 2021, so this is, I don't know if this is just a bad product of the. That's the last couple of novellas have been like, why am I reading these novellas? They're dumb. They're dumb. I do not need to read them. Perhaps this is okay. Here's my thing. I've had my complaint about the novellas of Sean McGr. Unless I hear otherwise that this is somehow essential, I am going to skip novellas from now on. I'm just going to skip them, and I'm just going to refer back to Sngng the Comic-Con blues as to why I am never going to read another encrypted novella again, because this is just a waste of my time. All right, I will leave it there. More videos later.